We're in the home stretch. Just 2 more chapters. And they're short chapters. I mean, the topic is light, the topic is very heavy, but the discussion is going to be quick, reasonably quick. Let me just find. Yeah. So yesterday, we completed chapter 6. And then comes 7 and 8. So now we'll begin the 7th chapter. Open the page. Here we go. The final stage of sadhana bhakti was asakti. And we heard the transition from asakti to bhava bhakti. And now we're ready to discuss bhava bhakti. It's very elevated. Flowering of supreme bliss, that's ananda or bhava. Flow of divine rapture. These are some titles that some translators have given us. So there we see some nice flower buds, but there's the little flower buds, but then there's some flowers that come from the flower buds. So the asakti stage is compared to buds, just like a plant or a tree or something. When it's spring season, first there's little buds. Wait a while, buds open into flowers. Wait a while, the flowers become fruits. And similarly, bhava bhakti is mature stage of asakti. And the buds become flowers. And in this bhava stage, many things that were already existing in a less mature now have become mature. For example, as this text is saying, the living entity, the jiva, has his swarup, in Satchit Ananda, but that's not matured. On the soul platform, those features are there because the soul is part of the Supreme Soul, who is Satchitananda Vigraha. The bhava stage, it becomes manifest in a more mature stage. And the blossoming, therefore, it's described as the blossoming of these 3 energies. The blossoming of the creeper of devotion, bhava stage. I don't know about all of you, but I like spring. Spring is a very nice season. Because besides, it's a sign that the winter is over. But it was so beautiful, and it's bringing the tiding of transformation into the warmer weather and summer season, and so colorful, the trees and the plants and everything. Spring is a wonderful season. As Krishna says, of seasons I'm spring. So the bhava stage is like that. Bhava is thus the blossoming flower of the cluster of buds, or asakti, of the desire creeper of bhakti. Desire creeper of bhakti. So it's metaphorical language, but that's what happens when you get into these higher stages. Some statements made by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Remember, this is a short chapter. The presentation is short, so you have to pay attention as we go along. The platform of suddha-sattva. I mean, the language is nice. Bhava ushers into us, the devotee, into the suddha-sattva stage. Like just before there's endeavors in the sadhana stage, and then when bhava erupts or manifests, we're carried into the suddha-sattva, which means, suddha-sattva means not just the previous verse that we heard, where rajas and tamas, tado rajas tamo bhava kama lobhayariyasi cheta etaira nadvidam sitvam sattve prasidati. That's the mode of goodness, where the lower modes, ignorance, passion, are diminished or gone. But even in goodness, there's a mix. And suddha-sattva, there's no mix. Some glorification. One atom, like that's how big is an atom of bhava, but one atom of bhava totally uproots avidya, not just diminishes it, but totally uproots avidya. What's avidya? Avidya is that covering or force that induces the living entity to desire foolishly. So desire remains, but the foolishness influence upon desire is gone. The very root of suffering in the material existence. And then again, poetic language. While the profuse release of fragrances from the flower of bhava invites the bee, Madhusudana, causing him to appear there. So, bees like flowers. Madhusudana is the big bee, and the big bee likes bhava because there's a certain fragrance and everything connected with the bhava that awakens in the heart of the devotee. So he appears in the heart. That's the idea. The perfume of the flower of bhava melts all emotions in the heart. Again, poetic language, but to understand something that's beyond our experience, you need to be a poet and use poetic metaphors. So there are emotions in the heart that, regardless of one's condition, and those emotions melt by the presence of the perfume of the flower of bhava. And there's some nice description we'll hear as we go along, but all of one's senses crave contact with Krishna. So one by one by one by one by one. And it's not guided by intelligence. Now I think I'll focus on this one. Now I think I'll focus on that one. There may be some free will exercise, but the bhava moves of its own will. We'll hear as we go along. The scent of the blossoming flower of bhava extends up to the transcendental abode, inviting Bhagavan, Madhusudana, to drink its nectar. Bees, maddened by the attractive scent of blossoming flowers, naturally come and drink their nectar with deep absorption. As bees are attracted to flowers, it's true, the Madhusudana is attracted to the flowering manifestation of bhava. Lord Madhusudana, attracted by the blossoming flower of bhava, existing in the devotee's heart, manifests in the devotee's heart and becomes maddened by drinking the nectar of that bhava flower. we experience something and Krishna experiences something. You know, Krishna is wishing us to get to the bhava stage because he likes to enjoy the bhava flower, drinking the nectar of that bhava flower. He's waiting. So there's a bhava flower, in case you didn't recognize, that's the bhava flower. And there's Madhusudana, like drinking the nectar of that bhava flower. Through bhava, the heart of the devotee softens in such a way that the heart of the devotee is able to shower the Lord's entire body with affection. Again, more metaphorical language, but in another sense, one gets a picture of what's going on a spiritual platform. We can say subtle platform, but a spiritual platform. And now we're going to hear about these two characteristics. Remember the two characteristics of sadhana, kleshagni and shubhada. And then there's a pair also ascribed to or characteristic of the bhava stage. There's two flowers with an outer and inner luster appear. The inner luster, moksha, lagutakrit, moksha lagutakrit, deriding. Lagu means light, and lagutakrit is considering insignificant, or deriding the conception of liberation. And sudurlabha. Labha means to obtain, and dur is difficult to obtain, and sudurlabha is very difficult to obtain. Rarely achieved. That's the outer luster. So we're going to go through these two, starting with moksha, lagutakrit, deriding even the conception of liberation. And there's many statements. I've included some for Vishwanath and some other places. This is from Jaiva Dharma on the stage of unfolding of the bhava element, the flower of bhava, even a touch of ecstasy of Bhagavat Rati, spontaneous loving attachment for the Supreme Lord, awakens in the jiva moksha lagutakrit, a feeling of disregard. That's a little different than deriding, just disregard, just insignificant. It's insignificant, quite insignificant. This disregard, again, this is Bhakti Vinod Thakur, it's a matured stage. Now, we learned something in chapter 3. Something, the unwanted things, the anartha things, and the eradication of those anartha things. We heard something about liberation, didn't we? There's, from pious activities, there is the generation of asat, and the thirst for asat. And the fourth of those categories was the desire for liberation. So, that is, each of these four, or anything in the material realm, the desire for liberation is in the material realm, and the desire for mystic cities, etc. So the desire of these 5 types of liberation was discussed. That's chapter 3. Now we're in chapter 7. So it's this spriha, or desire for liberation. We've seen this verse 4th time now. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat. Pishachi. Remember who that lady is, right? Witch. Pishachi. Like Putana was a Pishachi. She knew how to fly in the sky. Didn't say whether she had a broomstick or a broken branch, but she knew how to do it. And she did it. She was a witch. Pishachi. So the desire for bhukti and the desire for mukti or spriha, mukti spriha, they're characterized, Rupa Goswami has characterized them as witches. The material desire to enjoy the material world and the desire to become liberated from material bondage, the desire to become free from material bondage. Well, we'll hear something more about this as we go forward. They're considered to be two witches, and they haunt one like ghosts. As long as these witches remain within the heart, how can one feel transcendental bliss? As long as these two witches remain in the heart, there's no possibility of enjoying the transcendental bliss of devotional service. And you can hear them cackling in your heart. Here is Bhaktisiddhanta discussing from a different perspective, same point from a different perspective. We heard a little bit, we're going to hear a few more times about mamata, mamata. It's you are mine. But when that you are mine, mamata, because there's the material feature and there's the liberation feature, that's not Krishna's shelter. And then there's Mother Yasoda, or the gopis, or the cowherd boyfriends, and they have mamata. So material, negation of material, or fully spiritual. So there's mamata that's not Krishna's shelter. This is his writing. The function of sannyasa is also a sort of karma befitting an ashram and is not pleasant to Krishna when it aims at liberation or the desire for emancipation. They also receive fruition of their karma, and even if it be disinterested, their karma ends in atma mamata, or self-pleasure. So the sannyas ashram, per se, there's the Vaishnava sannyas, but then there's the other kind, to just renounce the world kind of sannyas. And what's the place of happiness? It's self-happiness, atma, mamata, or self-pleasure. But those who are pure devotees always serve Krishna by gratifying his senses, forsaking all attempts of karma and jnana, and being freed from all desires, save that of serving Krishna, or except serving Krishna. Krishna has fully destroyed the karma, its desires and nescience in these devotees, or those devotees. So Krishna is very kind. Take shelter of Krishna and you have your problems are solved. Problems that are arising from karma and desires related to karma and desires related to ignorance. You turn the light on and darkness is gone. Make the light very, very bright and darkness is fully gone. And then you can see everything very clearly. Everything is lightened by that bright light. So there's lesser stages. It's just taking this term. We've been through this several times, and it's worth saying it again. What's there in the living entity in a covered state has its mature position in the spiritual state, or in the prema stage, but it's covered. Therefore, it comes out in a different way. So, mamata, the possessiveness. People are possessive of stuff. And you can covet the property of someone else and become a thief, or just be envious that they have something. Or you can be very possessive of what you have. But what's yours? In the material conception, A and B. I'm this body. B, what's mine was produced from the body. What are things that are produced from the body? My work, and thus the fruits of my work. So I want to be the enjoyer of the fruits of my work. It's, dominoes. It's cause and effect. So part of the process of yoga is karma pala tyag. Renounce the pala of your karma. So how do you renounce the pala? Because there's some fruit from your work. You offer it to Vishnu. Yogi vai Vishnu. That's karma yoga. And then as karma yoga proceeds and becomes more, complete, then what's next is taking shelter of sat, or spirit, or Brahman. So then one may become a jnani. A factual jnani is one who is interested in Brahman. And one becomes situated in Brahman, then that realization for such a person in the incremental step, I am Brahman. And there's nothing beyond I am Brahman. That's it. I am the Supreme. Brahman is the Supreme, and I am the Supreme. Haribol. And such a person may be introduced to a yogi who can say, no. There's Atma and there's Paramatma. So let's train you how to do some meditation, free from the bodily conception, free from fruitive activities, absorbed in knowledge of who you really are, and meditate on Parabrahman. So it's Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. And then what after that? Just like the end of chapter 6. What's after that? The topmost yoga. Bhakti. So we don't have to go through the stairway. We can just hit the elevator button and go and be engaged by association of those that have bhakti in bhakti. What's our qualification? Good fortune. How'd you get that good fortune? It was just bestowed on me because some devotee came along and gave me some fortune. And I didn't even know exactly what it was that he or she was giving me. But I started appreciating the gift, and lo and behold, it's the top floor of the elevator. Started walking around looking at stuff and thinking, whoa, this is a nice place. I don't have the adhikar to be in this nice place. I better practice more carefully so I can move about in the realm of bhaktas and not step on people or offend people. Anyway, so just keeping it in very simple, conventional kind of language. Bhakti is very elevated. Now we're at this mamata, not sheltered at Krishna. Then there's mamata sheltered with Krishna. And by the way, as it says at the top, this is Bhaktisiddhanta's purport from Sri Brahma Samhita. Sri Brahma Samhita is another of those little books that deserves its own standalone seminar. One day, I've done, anyway. Hare Krishna. Here's a quote from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, referring to a verse from Narada Pancharatra on this topic of mamata. And the verse from Narada Pancharatra reads, when one develops an unflinching sense of ownership or possessiveness, mamata, in relation to Lord Vishnu, or, in other words, when one thinks Vishnu and no one else to be the only object of love, such an awakening is called bhakti by exalted persons like Bhishma, Prahlad, and Uddhava, and Narada. For instance, this is Narada giving bhakti to little Dhruva, but it's a verse cited in Madhurya Kadambini where the word mamata is also identified, and mamata that then has achieved the bhava stage. Possessiveness, not in the material sense of possessiveness, but a spiritual sense. Krishna, my relationship with you is everything. And Krishna accepts that devotee in the same way. Mamata is consistently used by Rupa Goswami throughout Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to describe, like Braja Bhakti, increased intimacy and affection, mamata. And it's true. The residents of Vrindavan have a very personalized, deep, profound sense of possessiveness. And it manifests itself in their speech and their behavior that's sometimes a little puzzling, a little hard to understand. But it is arising from a sense of possessiveness or mamata. Specifically, not of the object, but the relationship with Krishna is like that. And therefore, that mamata intensifies the taste that's in that relationship, this exchange between Krishna and his devotee. Here's a reference I like. So we mentioned it before, now here it is. This on the left, that's meant to be a drawing of Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri, as you all know, Ishwara Puri was the spiritual master, Diksha Guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Nimai Pandit. He gave him Diksha mantra. So he writes, let the twice-born enter the fearless kingdom of yoga, Vedic study, and solitary meditation in the forest. Let them become liberated in that way. I mean, it's not deriding what they've done. You just let them be happy. They're happy with that. Let them be happy. As for us, plural, we will spend hundreds of thousands of births not seeking liberation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna, whose splendid dark complexion and yellow garments are like a host of blue lotus flowers blooming in a grove of yellow flower-bearing kadamba trees. Possessiveness and completely absorbed asakti is completely absorbed in the object, bhajaniya, the object of devotion, and now it's the ecstasy, the taste of sweetness, of ecstasy. We saw this reference before, so we're seeing it again. It was in the context of giving up of this tendency for wanting liberation in the fruits of piety, one of which is this aspiration for liberation. We heard it in that context. This is from the introduction of that chapter. By his causeless mercy, the Lord can rescue the conditioned soul from the material clutches and enable him to return home back to Godhead to become his personal associate. Nonetheless, a pure devotee does not aspire to go back to Godhead, semicolon. He is simply satisfied with executing his service in the material world. A pure devotee does not ask anything from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His only prayer is to be freed from the material conception of life and to be engaged in the Lord's transcendental loving service. In other words, another way of saying the same thing, back to Godhead is not some place you go to. Like we're over here and we want to go there. It's consciousness. We can be back to Godhead anywhere in the material world doing your service. And that's the bhava stage. And Krishna appears in the heart of such a pure soul. Another reference from Sri Brahma Samhita, Karmani nirdahita kintucha bhakti bhajam. Some of you like Brahma Samhita. I like Brahma Samhita. And the translation in the verse, Govinda burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion. Bhakti bhajam. Karmani nirdahita kintucha bhakti bhajam. So, fruitive activities have their roots. The root that I want to enjoy. What do you want to enjoy? I want to enjoy that was produced from this body because I want to enjoy the body. So that such tendencies are burned to the roots. Burned in the sense of in the fire of intense bhakti. Another nice reference from Adi Purana. Krishna tells Arjuna, one who constantly chants my name and who is attached to my services deserves only bhakti. And it is not proper to bestow mukti on him. So he doesn't. Krishna can bestow, but he's not inclined for those who are in this category. In the category, it's the bhava stage. And so Krishna doesn't bother them with liberation. And they can whatever, just like Ishwara Puri. Or, his disciple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mama janmani janmani shri bhavatad bhakti rahita kitvahi. You can engage me however you like, birth after birth. That's okay. Just one request. Causeless devotional service, please. Ahaitaki bhakti. Thank you. That's my one request. Ahaitaki bhakti. And supposing you're not there yet, then aspire for that. But when the bhava stage is reached, that's the characteristic of the bhava stage. So we've so far discussed, remember this is going to be a short class, so be ready for a short class ending abruptly. Moksha, Laghu ta krit. Derived even the conception of liberation. And then, same graphics on the slide, it's the bud opens into a blossom. And this is the outer luster. Su durlabha, rarely achieved. It's all qualifier, rarely achieved by a common person. So common persons are interested anyways. But even if a common person became interested in what they thought was bhava, it's very rarely achieved. Here's Rupa Goswami. There's several verses that we'll be discussing from Rupa Goswami on this topic because it's his teaching. One is unable to attain bhava bhakti even by doing devotion without attachment for a long time. No nishkam karma. Devotion without attachment. The Lord also does not give prema very easily. Both. Jiva Goswami's commentary on this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The Lord only easily gives bhava to capable persons, not incapable ones. Capability means understanding that only Hari Bhakti can bestow auspiciousness. Capability also refers to one's attachment only to bhakti and aloofness from self-interested desires. Remember, the self-interested desire includes wanting liberation and wanting mystic cities and the Asat Krishna group. So free from self-interest, desires of self-interest. And attachment, there's that negative and then the positive. Attachment that Krishna should be pleased. Then you have these three categories of contemplations in the nishtha and then the asakti, and then it's fully manifest in the bhava stage. So then now comes this very beautiful narration of what's it like. Could you describe what it's like? So it's a picture Vishwanath Chakravarti portrays of what it's like to attain the bhava stage. The devotee's eyes, constantly inebriated. Inebriated means intoxicated, drunk, inebriated, from seeing the beauty of Brajendra Nandana Krishna, his complexion, the color of a monsoon cloud, his pinkish lips, his compassionate eyes, the brilliance of his perfect moon-like face with its innocent, gentle smile, and a shiny yellow dress and radiant jewels. The devotee's voice chokes up as he perceives the beauty of his Lord, and tears flow incessantly, saturating his body. This is bhava. The object, and then the ecstasy that comes from being so focused on the bhajaniya, the object of devotion. Then the senses, we heard the senses are eager. His eager ears strain to hear the haunting melody of Krishna's flute. His captivating voice, honeyed voice, they strain to hear all the instructions on serving and worshipping his lotus feet. The devotee experiencing bhava bhakti restlessly moves about, trying to collect any information about his beloved Lord and how to serve him. The bhava bhakta sometimes pauses in one spot, rooted to the ground, as if he is trying to hear a faint voice, moving his head in different directions in order to hear better. It's a nice picture. Bhava is self-willed and moves on its own volition. The actions of a devotee in bhava are unpredictable. He may suddenly try to imagine how it feels to be touched by the tender palms of the Lord. And when the hairs of his body stand on end, it appears as if it is actually happening to him. This is a painting of the Kaliya serpent in the background, and the cowherd boys drank water from the lake, and they fainted as if dead. Krishna came along and saw them like that, and he, just by touching their body, they revived. On other occasions, the devotee's nostrils flare from inhaling deeply the sweet, lingering aroma of the Lord's transcendental body, sending him into rapture. Sometimes he thinks, shall I ever be fortunate enough to relish the ambrosia issuing from Krishna's sublime lips? Immediately he begins to lick his own lips, as if his taste buds have been given a magnificent treat only his cherished dream could fulfill. Very poetic. At other times, such a devotee experiences waves of pleasure transmitted from the Lord, the reservoir of all pleasures, and an ineffable joy envelops his heart, making him feel the same as when he sees the Lord face to face. In this way, he becomes absorbed in the bliss of pure Krishna consciousness. Okay, enough poetry. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Bhakti Tattva Viveka is going to describe all six and then focus on the two of this. So here's the six. Kleshagni Shubhadha, Moksha Laghu Ta Krit, Sudurlabha, and then coming in the afternoon, the second session, the stages of prema. It gives transcendental, intense pleasure, and it's only means of attracting Krishna. So he's going to now focus on the 3 and 4. In the stage of sadhana bhakti, only the first two symptoms appear. Bhava bhakti, all 4. Prema bhakti, all 6. So here's what he writes about moksha laguta krit. Similar, making reference to Narada Pancharatra, Hari Bhakti Mahadevaya. The various kinds of perfection headed by mukti and the entirety of mundane pleasures follow behind the goddess of Hari Bhakti, or Bhakti Devi, as her maidservants. This is a reference from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he's going to go through the next one. This is 1:134, and by his mercy, he's going to take us through the other ones. 1:135. There are two reasons for bhava, for Hari Bhakti being so rare. This is the second of the two. It's very rare. First, it cannot be achieved in spite of engaging in many varieties of sadhana for a long period of time, as long as one is bereft of firm faith and unwavering persistence. Secondly, so it's rare. only by executing sadhana with expertise in bhajan for a long period of time, and after offenses to both the holy name and Vaishnavas have been dispelled by the mercy of the Lord, unalloyed devotion, which establishes one in knowledge of his constitutional identity, arises in the heart. And it's very reasonable, and it's scriptural as well. Sudurlabha. This is, Rupa Goswami is the source of this teaching, and then followers of Rupa Goswami are commenting. Similar understanding, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 22 of Madhya Lila. If you recognize, that's the Sanatana Shiksha section. The advanced devotee who is inclined to spontaneous loving service should follow the activities of a particular associate of Krishna in Vrindavan. We've heard this many times. He should execute service externally as a regulative devotee, as well as internally from his self-realized position. Thus, he should perform devotional service both externally and internally. If one engages in spontaneous loving service to the Lord, his affection for the lotus feet of Krishna gradually increases. In the seed of affection, there is attachment, which goes by two names, rati and bhava. So notice the heading at the top. This is a detail that both bhava and rati can be used interchangeably. So this attachment and the emotion that goes with that attachment goes by two names. The Supreme Personality of Godhead comes under the control of such attachment. Now, this is the other metaphors. The bee of Madhusudana descends and enjoys the fragrance of the flower of bhava. That's a nice metaphorical description. And another is, he, the personality of Godhead, comes under the control of one who is in the stage of bhava. He recognizes their ecstasy and he reciprocates with their ecstasy. And in that way, their ecstasy goes this way and their ecstasy goes that way, and Krishna goes with their ecstasies. It's rasa. And it's an ecstatic rasa. And the devotee isn't in charge of it. It just goes. And Krishna goes with the ecstasy. It's very free-flowing. It's quite extraordinary. Some teachings, the aham mameti, is there such a thing? Yeah, the possessiveness. The self-conceit of the sadhaka seems as if it enters into a siddha-deha, a perfected spiritual body, suitable to his desire to serve the Lord. Now, what does that mean? Just this morning, listening to, Prabhupada lecturing to a very new audience, and he was going into this topic. His point was, there's coverings of the soul and there's the soul. The soul is already there. The soul is not just, there's this thing, like a little spark. There's spiritual form, siddha-deha. It's already there. It's just covered. This is his explanation. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. That siddha-deha is there, but the particulars of the siddha-deha are not recognized by living as it is covered by avidya. They see the avidya coverings and see accordingly. However, as bhakti becomes strong and matured and even intense, what happens, here's what happens. The self-conceit or ego of the sadhaka seems as if it enters into a siddha-deha, or the siddha-deha of the soul, suitable to his desire to serve the Lord. So it becomes purified and it becomes indistinguishable. The sense of self becomes our spiritual form. The false ego vanishes. The material body remains almost as if he had left it, meaning the devotee doesn't vaporize. They still have a body, and it looks just like any other body, but it's not like any other body. The body is there, but consciousness has entered into the sense of I, the self-conceit or ego, ahanta, enters into the spiritual form. So one identifies with the spiritual form, although the body may be doing X, Y, Z. On the spiritual platform, they're doing what their siddha-deha does in service to Krishna. Now, it's not part of our experience, all of these things, but we're getting a description. Compliments of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. His sense of possessiveness, mamata, becomes like a bee, seeking the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet. The painting is Lord Chaitanya and his devotees in kirtan, and that's, definitely ecstatic. Bhava is the immature budding stage of the Lord's three Swarup Shaktis. So it's these three, same, this, Sat Chitananda, Sandini Sambit, Hladini. Languages are different, but it's similar. Now, earlier we heard is they have become matured. That's of the soul. Satchitananda has become matured in the bhava stage. And here it's saying it's budding, but it's still not yet at the prema stage. Two types of bhava. One develops from raga bhakti, and that bhava is thick and intense. And awe and veneration are gone. They're just not there. However, just from, is it possible? The answer is yes. To achieve the stage of bhava bhakti through vaidhi or vidhi sadhana bhakti, yes. However, the bhava is different, and one of the things it's different. It's qualitatively and qualitatively and quantitatively less. You ready for an abrupt ending? Because we're going to abruptly end. Hang on. So here's one of those lists. That's so that we can get like we've heard some of these things, but it's a nice list of the things or the characteristics of bhava, bhakti. Marked by the appearance of the Lord's Swarup Shaktis, like rays of the dawning sun. It's rarely achieved. Such devotees disregard or deride the conception of liberation. Fragrance from bhava causes Madhusudana or Krishna to appear. Emotions of the heart become like sesame oil smeared on Krishna's limbs. Now, I don't know what that is. Does anybody know what sesame oil is? What you want to say, Radha Krishna, you know? Sesame oil? What is it? Huh? What's the big deal about sesame oil?
Yeah.
There we go.
It's a cooking oil. It's viscous and kind of very smooth. It's also used very heavily in Ayurveda medicine. Yeah.
Okay. So it's besides cooking oil, it somehow has medicinal benefits.
Yes, and it penetrates the body very easily.
Okay. Yeah. I can't hear you. Flax? Okay. Okay. When you grind or pulverize flax seeds, it becomes sesame oil? Because sesame seeds are little white things. We're getting
it's
lost.
Not flax seed. Huh? It is sesame seed.
The same thing?
Yes.
Sesame seed and flax seeds are the same?
No. They are different.
They're two different things?
Yeah, completely different.
Nice try. Okay, we got lost. Let's go back to emotions of the heart become like sesame oil smeared on Krishna's limbs. Eyes turn towards Brajendra Nandana, tears hankering for hearing Krishna's flute, anklets, his voice, symptoms of sanchari bhava. No, I chose to not go into all of this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu topic. It's going to come up with Prema Bhakti, but this isn't a class in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So if you want to learn more about those things, read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Nectar Devotion. It's mentioned. Intelligence becomes fixed. Senses enter the siddha deha. Rasa awakens. Devotees try to hide their emotions, but they don't do a good job. Common people think that this person is mad. Now, here's a nice section. As I was preparing for this Madhurya Kadambini class, I began to remember an experience which I'm going to share with you. It's from Mayapur Festival, April 6, 1975. So the scene is Prabhupada is on the Vyasa giving a morning class. And as he's giving a morning class, he starts to speak. I'm going to read the transcription of what he says. But as he was speaking, all of a sudden he paused. He went into trance right in front of us. And as he was in trance, the features of his face started to sag. His body started to sway in the wind, sway like a tree in the wind, just moving back and forth. We were in the room, he was in the room, but he wasn't with us, he was somewhere else. And what do you do when that happens? So there was silence and I checked with others that had the same experience. What I narrating is what they remembered. What happened was, Hansaduta being a kirtanier, he stood up carrying the mridanga and very gently started chanting Hare Krishna. It was solo, but gentle. He's not a gentle person, but he was singing very softly. And then suddenly, Prabhupada's eyes opened up. He looked around the room. He got up from the asasana and went to his room. That was the end of class. Now, I didn't hear about it, but there's lots of, in Lilamrita and other sources, there's a lot of like, did Hunter do the right thing? What, how can, you know, that stuff. Prabhupada didn't talk about it. The GBC talked about it. So here's here's what Prabhupada is saying. Mayapur festival, temple room in Mayapur, packed, hundreds of devotees, packed. Don't try to repeat your birth again and again in this Kali Yuga. It will not be a very happy life. Better sacrifice everything in this life and be fully Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead. Don't wait for the next life. This is very seriously repeated, that this life I shall finish my Krishna conscious business. And as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna consciousness business means to understand Krishna rightly. And he's explaining himself rightly. Where's the difficulty to finish the Krishna consciousness business? If Krishna is explaining himself, what he is, then where is your difficulty? Krishna is explaining himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is sending his representative Acharya to teach you, and Krishna is within yourself trying to teach you. If you are actually serious, then where's the difficulty? Inside, outside, always, books, knowledge, he is prepared. So where's the difficulty? To make yourself perfect in Krishna consciousness. There is no difficulty at all, provided you are serious. You can become fully Krishna conscious in this very life. You are all young men. You're not old man like me. I have no opportunity. And he stopped speaking and went into trance. So I started asking around, and sure enough, there were other examples. This one I received from Devamrita Maharaj, and he was in the audience. Instead of singing Jayarada Madhava, he sang Parama Karuna Pahudvijana Nitai Gaurachandra. And then he started explaining the song. He didn't get so far. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they are so kind. No one knows Krishna, yet they are distributing love of Krishna. Just take shelter of them and be happy. After 2 minutes, the lecture ended because Prabhupada was in a state of ecstasy, and Devamrita Maharaj said he became wet because from Prabhupada's eyes, like a syringe, tears came from his eyes. His voice cracked. Emotionally overwhelmed. He didn't go into trance, he just was exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy. And he ended class. He got up from the Vyasasana 2 minutes after class started, went upstairs to his room, and didn't speak to anybody about what happened. And nobody asked him. So there's the deities of Gaurnitai installed in the Atlanta temple. Parama Karuna, Bahudvijana, Nitai Gaurachandra, other deities. Another time, so kept going. There's other examples. In Los Angeles, short class. Devotee means he does not ask anything from God. He simply wants to give. That is devotee. Just like gopis. They never asked anything from Krishna. For one full pregnant minute, he was silent and visibly emotional, and class ended. That was it. No chant. He went upstairs to his room. And there's a few more. This is on the bhava bhakti topic, but it's nice. This is from Shrutakirti in his memoirs or his experiences with Prabhupada. In Los Angeles, during a lecture, Prabhupada said that his disciples were young and had much opportunity to preach, whereas his life had no value because I'm an old man who may die at any moment. As soon as he uttered these words, Prabhupada was suddenly unable to talk, and a very perceivable change in consciousness took place. Doesn't say what happened after that, but at least an emotional surge just took over. He is from that position coming to the position of a Madhyama, giving teachings, but he's not in the Madhyama space. In Gorakhpur, Prabhupada was seated before the deities of Radha Madhava discussing Krishna's pastimes. He became overwhelmed with emotion and was unable to continue speaking. Doesn't give the details. I don't have the transcription. The same thing happened in San Francisco, storefront. Srila Prabhupada was describing Lord Chaitanya's mood of separation from Krishna. So the idea, there's probably more, but the idea is on the platform of Krishna Prema, certainly bhava is there. And sometimes he was unable to hide or check or conceal. It just burst out. And it made, the regular service that one might otherwise do difficult. So here's a little bit of these 5 bhavas. Sthayi bhava, Vibhava, Vyabhachari bhava, Anubhava, and Sattviki bhavas. So if you want to study, take a nectar devotion or take a course. Do you teach nectar devotion? Of course you teach it. Sign up for Radha Krishna's nectar devotion class. And you'll learn all about these 5 bhavas. The essential principle is there's steady ecstasy. It's not yet rasa, but rasa is when these other bhavas mix with the steady ecstasy, the permanent ecstasy, sthayi bhava. Rather than going through the description, there's mixing of the bhavas that produces rasa. So rasa is when the sthayi bhava becomes stimulated. Different degrees of sweetness of bhava are constituted of the 5 varieties. Like, 5 primary rasas. We know the 5 primary rasas. Rasa is the matured stage of all 5 sthayi bhavas mixed with the other 4 bhavas just identified. This is Kavi Karnapur statement. This is a writing that he made when he was 16 years old, describing Lord Chaitanya. That dearmost sentiment which is tasted in a purified heart, absolutely purged of all worldliness by contacting suddha-sattva, which means we're at the bhava stage, right? That which is the fountainhead of striking, varied, charming sweetness, and is a way beyond the realm of thought, is rasa. 16-year-old. We're almost done. And then we'll have this afternoon session. So we heard, remember back, Rasa Vaisaha. Rasa is the essence of the Lord. He is Rasa Swarup. Rasa is present in all the avatars but reaches perfection in Vrajendra, Nandana, Krishna. And other aspects of Raja, of Bhava, I and mine, pervasively spiritualized, material aspect, empty shadow, meditation marked with seeing the Lord. So all those experiences aren't part of the earlier stages, but stay tuned. Stay on track with faith, in good association, and strive very carefully. Take shelter of advanced personalities, and by Krishna's mercy you may get there. Look at this, we have some time. Any discussion? I'm looking at the clock up on the wall up here. We have a little bit of time. Yes.
When Srimad Bhagavatam says pure devotee, then is it always like somebody on the platform of prema, or could be bhava, or could be asakti? Like how to understand?
Well, that's a nice question. One who's pursuing can be called a pure devotee, not just when the bell rings and they're ecstatic, or prema. Pure devotional service means cultivating. Sadhana done properly is pure devotion. And then there's maturing stages. It's just a statement of, let me ask you. This is one way of answering your question. A Tulsi Devi is A seed. B. Tulsi is after the seed is sprouted and the two leaves come out of the soil, that's a Tulsi. C. Tulsi is not just where there's two leaves come out of the soil, but because the plant becomes mature. D. Tulsi is when not just the plant becomes mature, there's little manjaris. Or the next one, I guess it's the E or something. When the manjaris transform and become more seeds, that's a Tulsi. Or all of the above. So my answer to your question is it's not just at the mature stage only, pure devotional services, where there's in principle the acceptance. It's Rupa Goswami's definition. And there could be the cultivation of. So in other words, same thing as before. Sadhana and sadhya are the same. Or is it not mature stage of the mature stage? So what's important is the principle is in place. And then it's pure devotional service. Not yet matured is still pure devotional service.
So, like in the first class, I'm just trying to understand how to then read Srimad Bhagavatam when it says like a pure devotee. We can use what we have learnt in this seminar when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, says pure devotee to identify either ourselves or in the scripture, at what stage the devotee is when they are saying a pure devotee?
You're asking the same question again. And the answer is, it depends on the context and depends upon the individual and how fixed are they in the principle of what jnana karma janavratam. That's our definition. That's Rupa Goswami's definition, therefore it's our definition. And so the persons may be there or may not yet be there. So it depends. The answer to your question is depends. So you'd have to take the context of the statement to discern, is it this or is it that or is it the other? But in principle, minimally, in principle, it's jnana and karma are not the pursuit.
I have a second question. While reading the book of Madhurya Kadambini, it said that one of the offenses...
We need some help with the battery, I think. It's cracking up.
One of the offenses...
No, it's the battery. It's not her. Thank you very much.
One of the offenses...
Oh, much better.
Smearing one's body with oil and worshipping the deity was mentioned as an offense. So then the point came up here that you smear the body of the deity with oil.
Oh, it's poetry. Poetic license, they don't get into the penalty box.
So usually when it's winter time, everyone applies either oil or something to the body, and
Okay.
it's...
Don't get stuck.
Okay.
Poetic license. It's something that's very nice applied to Krishna's body is like what the stage of bhava is. And don't get stuck on those kind of details. Who's going to carry the microphone? You want to say something? No? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam. So, I am only 1 year old in Krishna consciousness. So, I attended...
Happy birthday.
No, like last Kartik, I completed 1 year. So, I attended yesterday's class and today's class. So, most of the things is actually very intellectual for people like me. So, what should be our takeaway message? Like, what you will tell us, like people like me, to understand from this retreat and practice? Because most of the things are really beyond our understanding.
You missed the first part. The first part, I was preparing the audience that attended the first part. We're going to get to, like, you need not just a telescope, you need like a Hubble telescope, because this is really high stuff. But it's stages of bhakti. So takeaway is, here's 2 or 3. One takeaway is, you got a GPS, put the destination in your GPS and follow the instructions of this nice lady or fellow that tells you turn left and turn right and so forth. Just keep following. Make sure you have the clear understanding what the destination is. So that's a takeaway. This is the destination. It's really elevated and I'm not there yet. But there's a destination. That's one takeaway. So become like excited or informed or educated or something, what the destination is. Once upon a time, when I was a little boy, I asked mom and dad, because they grew up in a Christian family. What's it like in heaven? They didn't know. But they didn't say they didn't know. They just patted me on the head and said, "Oh, isn't that cute?" It got worse, but the worst is, then guests would come, and they asked me to stand up and say it in front of the guests, because it was like, "Isn't this cute?" It was embarrassing. So I decided, let me go ask, Mom and Dad don't know, let me go ask the priest. The priest didn't know either. What's the destination? That's heaven. I didn't know what the difference between heaven and Vaikuntha. I didn't, nothing. So this is the destination. This is your GPS final stop. And there's stops along the way, and that's fine. But so that's one takeaway. Second, go back, hear the recordings of the earlier, read the book and hear the recordings of the earlier, and find out, what are as I'm making my progress towards that destination, what are the signs that I'm making progress? How do I evaluate? How am I doing? How do I evaluate how I'm doing? What are the do's and do nots? Besides the rules and regulations, are there categories of progress? And so following rules and more spontaneous type of following. So you go back and look at, how does bhakti be? I find it really educational. How does bhakti begin? If you want to understand how to advance, understand how bhakti begins, because that'll tell you how to advance. If you don't understand how it begins, you might advance, you might not advance, but if you understand how it begins, you just hit the reset button when you get lost in the forest somewhere, like, where am I? You go to what is bhakti and how does it begin? Now you know what your resources are. That's a second takeaway. And then how do you go from beginning to the next stage? And there's certain principles. So takeaway, and what are those principles that I should keep right in the front as I'm going through life, with its challenges and, opportunities and things. What do I keep in the front? What are the resources I can draw upon to go to the next step? Those are 3 takeaways.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
But you have to do a little homework. You have to go back and hear the classes.
I will do that.
Okay, good. This is our last question because it's almost 9 o'clock. Online, okay.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So it says like bhava is the blossoming of a cluster of flower of the creeper of bhakti with an outer and inner lustre. So inner lustre is moksha laghukriti and outer is sudurlabha. So first one is clear that when one derides even the conception of liberation, that is a quality of a devotee who kind of shows as a lustre. But I could not understand how sudurlabha is a outer lustre, because that is not a quality, but it is like a fact that it is sudurlabha. That's not a quality, right? So looks like I missed something.
The essence that I have with that particular item, if I've understood your question correctly, my understanding is it's bestowed. You can't go to the Kmart or any place and get bhava, bhakti. It's bestowed. And it's rarely bestowed. Krishna's not just stingy. He gives to people who are qualified. So the internal is, it's like the external, is become qualified. And when you become qualified, then if Krishna so desires, in his own time, in his own way, he may bestow. He may not. Or he may do whatever he's going to do. Test you a little further or something. But it's bestowed. Therefore rarely achieved. Okay? Online, 2 questions, and bring the microphone up and we're going to close up.
So this question is from Veda. She was traveling back.
Yeah.
She asks, is it correct to understand that Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is explaining the characteristics of bhava and prema from his own experience, or maybe he is at the highest stages and expanding based on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu?
Both. Not one or the other. Both. Next.
And this is from Atulya Mataji. So with the definition of pure devotee that you shared, could Indra and Brahma also be called pure devotees? Since they took
Yes
shelter?
and no. Yes, because they're elevated devotees, but no, because they're in the post of Indra or some other deva because they have affinity for the temporary. And they're different personalities who occupy the post of Indra, by the way. So there's different Indras. Different persons that have less and greater affinity for being enjoyers. So it depends. Generally speaking, but they're not considered pure devotees because they have affinity otherwise. But pure devotion, this is your question. Pure devotion means from the get-go, from the seed stage, from the sadhana stage, I accept the position that I should not be aspiring for jnana or karma. I'm not there yet, but I accept the position in principle. And these personalities, generally, that's not the case. We'll see you again at 10:30. Srila Prabhupada.